Welcome to the Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Minnoch-Nuku. I started this podcast because I have a fascination with aging and I'm constantly searching for credible guests to educate, inform, entertain and inspire you to live an incredible second half of your life. So it's not surprising that I stumbled across the topic of menopause and down the rabbit hole I went. If you started listening to this podcast from the very first episode, you'll actually be joining me on the journey of discovering what menopause is and how best to support menopause symptoms. And if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to the Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Minnoch-Nuku. And today I have a guest who I have actually spoken on his podcast called the Diet Detox Podcast. Joe is the owner and operator of Hoye Fit. And what's so awesome about Joe and the conversation that we've had in the past is Joe is very invested in training women 40 plus. I think now he's probably moved across different demographics that I can see. I follow you on socials, Joe, so I can see where you're going with that. But Joe, I've only spoken to two other male fitness professionals on this podcast, and one of them had an eye-opening on-the-job education when he started to train women 40 plus. And this episode was the most listened to episode for the Sexy Aging Podcast. So you're on a mission to support women with their health and fitness struggles. How did you get started in the fitness industry and why women?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, Tracy, thanks for having me on the show. Like I told you when we kind of spoke before, your episode was one of the most downloaded on ours. So if anybody wants to go and hear more of the lady you love, come over and listen to it there because it was a great episode. How did I get into this? It really starts when I was 13 years old. And growing up, my mom was my strongest, most consistent role model in my life. And I was an only child. I had two stepbrothers. Sometimes they're at the house, sometimes they're at their mom's house. And at 13, my mom saw that I was going down two bad paths. Number one, I was starting to hang out with the wrong kids and make the wrong choices that were going to get me absolutely nowhere in life. Number two, I sprouted up really tall, but I was really lanky and skinny and pretty awkward, never really the smartest kid or the most coordinated kid. And because of that, I started getting picked on. So making poor choices and getting picked on, I wasn't super happy. And my mom saw that. So at 13, she comes home. I'm 13. She comes home from work and says, I'm going to the gym tonight. If all your homework's done, if you're done with everything, I'd love it if you came with me. And that was a really obvious answer for me of yes, I want to, because the men that I picture at the gym have muscles and confidence. And those are two things I didn't have. And I saw that to be the thing that maybe stopped me from getting picked on and bullied. So went to the gym and I never really gained any size throughout high school, but what the gym did do is take me off that bad path and give me a good outlet to really make something different of my life. I become a better kid. I grow up, I mature a bit, but I'm still getting picked on all throughout high school. I graduate and I end up going into college, pursuing a career in the medical field. So the bullying kind of stops, but it definitely wrecked my confidence. At that point, I was still really tall, really skinny, really uncoordinated, not the smartest kid, but I'm here pursuing a career in surgery. And being an 18-year-old boy away from home, I also start partying in college. You have this kind of dichotomy of me taking courses in anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, nutrition, learning everything that the human body needs for change, but also drinking like a fish. And so I'm still going to the gym. I'm still giving my body the nutrition it needs, but I'm also partying. And so in about a year and a half, I go from 5'11", the height that I am right now, and 145 pounds, all the way up to 225. And for anyone that knows a thing or two about nutrition and muscle gain, you can't gain muscle that fast. So a lot of that was fat. And so then I have a new problem. I've gained, roughly 80 pounds. And now I'm no longer skinny and not confident. Now I'm fat and not confident. And so I ditch the partying, I dial in everything I learned in college, and I created the outcome I really always wanted, which is about 5'11", 190 pounds and very lean. Now, because my body's lean and I feel good, I have energy, I'm confident too. And I come back from college in the summer and everybody notices because I grew up in a small town. They're like, Joe, how did you do this? We knew you when you were very skinny. We knew you when you were overweight, but we haven't seen this version of you because yes, you look different, but you're showing up different. You're more confident, you're happier, you're looking us in the eye like, what did you do? And I had enough people ask to where something clicked and I had this aha moment of, wow, maybe I can help other people avoid the thing that I so much hated. So transparently, Tracy, I thought I wanted to help people like me. young men either lose weight or gain muscle and be confident in themselves. So I started running these 8-week fat loss challenges online, posting about it on my Facebook and my Instagram, and I got a ton of signups. But I never looked at the names of who signed up. And on day one, when I open up my laptop, open up Zoom, and I'm about to do my first kickoff call, I look at all the names and faces looking back at me, and I panic because nobody looks like me, and every single person looks like you and my mom. And I was like, well, well, what happened here? And I panicked. I did the call. At the end of the call, I had an amazing time. Everyone was laughing. At the end of the first 8 weeks, every single person got incredible results. And I was like, you know what? I really don't care what happened, why it happened, or anything like that. I like this. I like this generation. I like this population. I'm going to stick with this because I like it. But I came to the conclusion that because I grew up with my mom as a strong, solid role model and spent time with a lot of her friends because I was an only child, I just learned to communicate in a way that resonated with that demographic. And so I naturally drew them in from the way I talked. And that's really like the three-part story is number one, my mom basically saved me and put me on a new trajectory. So I want to give back to her. And if I truly do want to help a kid like me, I think the best way to do it is through helping a mom because then it'll pour into their family. Number two, I kind of skipped through this part, but when I got my career in surgery, they stuck me, the only male on the team, inside the OB and GYN based rooms. So I got massive experience understanding the female body and how it works. And then number three, I just really like it. Like I love having these conversations with these ladies and seeing their lives change in so many ways. And so that's kind of the evolution of where we came from.
Joe, that is such a inspirational story. I don't talk to many guys your age like this. Like I've heard this, I feel like I know you already because I've had a conversation with you before, but it's just inspirational. And a couple of things that really stood out for me was when you said you were 13 and you were getting bullied and you used, fitness and training as a way to take care of yourself and build confidence. My son is on the spectrum and he's 12. So we put him into boxing classes because a couple of things that we want to help him with his confidence. He's not great at team sports because of his diversity. He can't sort of really cope with everything that's going on around him. So we put him into boxing. But what we've also realized is that he can actually protect himself in the event of bullying. So
Yes.
I feel like he's got this level of inner confidence, like I can stand up for myself and protect myself, but also he's getting like really fit. And we've noticed that he's like posing in the mirror, flexing his little muscles. And I'm like, well, this kid could follow, our career into fitness, and that would be really awesome because when you're on the spectrum, I think there's probably some limitations. I think actually in my head as a mum, I'm putting the limitations on him, but I don't think he feels the limitations, which is great.
I love
And
that.
the other part was that, like, when you show up online and the face is looking back at you, people like, your mom and me, and then you kind of drop away really quickly into any preconceived ideas of, I don't know if I can help these people, and realize that everything that you've learnt and experienced, you can share with anyone. And then I think the other part for me is that you are a unique human in the way that you listen. Like you have obviously learnt the skills of listening from a really young age because this is the reason why I believe you're successful in this space. It's listening and taking note and having empathy and understanding and being open to quite a new conversation like menopause woman, right? So
Wow.
yeah, amazing.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's super kind. Just to go back to your son real quick though, like good to you for every single piece of that. Number one, you've probably created a monster in the best way possible because if he falls in love with this, obviously we see like the options are endless in terms of what he can do and how he can impact. But number two, like he's going to be so healthy at an early age that he's going to avoid so many things that we see other people older dealing with. So good for you. And then good for you for being like, you know what? Maybe these limitations are in my head and maybe he really is still unlimited.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I do need to remember that. Okay, back to you. What has been the biggest learnings about this specific demographic, woman 40 plus? Like, what have you learned throughout the years? And after the learnings, what have you settled on? Like, what's working?
Yeah, good question. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said. Because in the beginning, you were like, you know what, Joe, you found out that the things you knew to be true for you, you could apply to anyone. And I just need to be super transparent that right in the beginning of my coaching career, I was not the coach I am today. These 8-week challenges, if 31-year-old Joe could see how 24-year-old Joe was doing, I'd slap him right in the face, because nothing I was doing was sustainable, realistic, or wise for the ladies I was helping. Right? It was these massive calorie deficits. It was the wrong type of exercise. It was too much exercise. It was the wrong emphasis on everything. And so, yes, I created these short-term amazing results, but long-term, what I kept seeing is I would have the same faces show up to my challenge 3 or 4 months down the road. And eventually I noticed these patterns and I was like, well, what am I doing wrong? Because yes, they're getting a result, but they're coming back and I don't want them to. Like, I want them to get a result once and keep it. And so the evolution was like, okay, massive calorie deficits aren't working. I guess I need to understand not just my body more, but the female body more, and more specifically, the female body past 30, 40, 50, and 60. And so one of the biggest things that I saw is the muscle mass issue, which should be alarming to any woman, right? It should become a wake-up call. And if it's not, hopefully this podcast episode is. Because what I learned is that at the age of 30, this happens for men and women, but mostly women start losing muscle mass year after year. At the age of 40, that rate turns into losing muscle mass at the rate of 1% year after year. At the age of 50, it's going to double to 2%. And at the age of 60, that's going to double again to 4%. And so that's alarming, but it's only alarming when we start to realize that muscle is the thing that's number one going to keep you functional and healthy throughout your life, so that when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, you actually like your life. You're not just bedridden and relying on anybody else. But it's also the thing that burns the most amount of calories at rest. And so we understand that if you lose lots of muscle, you lose your ability to eat food without weight gain. And so that's why we'll see so many women eating 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 calories and struggling to maintain their weight because they've already lost so much muscle from past diets, which is why I'm such an advocate for anti-dieting.
Yeah. So your podcast is called The Diet Detox. Absolutely love that. And I am right on track with you with everything that you've said about that with the calorie deficit. And I definitely don't promote calorie deficits for women. I think one of the biggest challenges, and you probably realize this too, and I want to get your opinion on it, is there is a massive mindset shift that needs to happen as a woman goes through those hormonal fluctuations. And you've obviously leveled up to understand that this is what is actually going on. It's not because they're not working out properly, and it's not because they're not eating perfectly. They're doing all of those things. There are hormonal fluctuations that will impact their potential results for 75% of women in menopause, right? So there's a massive mindset shift that needs to happen. And I think we get so used to doing these 30-day challenges, 8-week challenges, right? We get so used to it and getting results in the past. And then when it suddenly doesn't work, we look at ourselves and blame ourselves and think, I suck. I can't, I must be doing something wrong. Maybe I'll drop my calories even further. And I'm just seeing this happen time and time again. And one of the reasons I never offer challenges is because it's way big. The issue is way bigger than that. It's a long-term thing that can happen for up to 10 years of your life, hormonal chaos. And as it balances out a little bit later, mid-50s and 60s, there's real potential to possibly lose some more weight then. But I think people don't want to hear that, and especially women of my demographic. We've been exposed to Cosmo magazine and Dolly and everything that, and then the titles, the reason those magazines sell is like, this weight loss diet will help you lose 10 kilos in 10 days. Like, we have literally been brainwashed our whole lives. And so it's very, very difficult to flip the switch on what it means to moderate and take our time and actually think, well, I need to start thinking about getting more muscle and building my bones, because otherwise, like you said, I'm going to be left in my bed at the age of 75. As soon as I break my hip, it's game over, So, yeah, it's a massive mindset shift. Do you feel the same way? Your complete midlife and menopause health coach is here. The Sexy Aging Health and Fitness app has everything you'll need for this stage of your life and beyond. Personalised fitness training programs that build lean muscle from beginners to advanced. Personalised nutrition where you can choose from vegan, vegetarian, dairy-free, gluten-free, the menopause meal plan, and more. There are education videos that help you understand menopause symptoms. There are new weekly Workouts with Me videos added as bonus extras. You can do sprint interval training and HIIT workouts and train your balance, mobility, agility, and core, Wait, there's more. Mental health video series, a personalised chat function, menopause symptom tracker, period tracker, and a community group. You'll be able to ditch all the individual apps you've got stored on your phone taking up space and use the Sexy Aging app for all of it. There are options for fitness workouts only monthly subscriptions or the all-inclusive monthly subscription. Check the link in the show notes that will take you to the info page to find out more.
Yes, there's so much to unpack here, and I couldn't agree more.
There
So
is. I'm on my podium right now.
Do it. You stay on it. You're on a roll. I loved all of that. So the term diet detox for me means way more than detoxifying people's body from the damage that diets have done. Yes, that's accurate.
Yeah.
But we also need to detoxify people's minds from the damages that diets have done mentally, right? And so what we've learned, or not we, but these women that I work with have learned, is that, my God, since they were 10, 15, 20 years old, their mom or their gym teacher or their coach or some peer that's older than them that they looked up to and valued said, hey, you got to be a little bit smaller as a woman, and Weight Watchers is the way to do it. And so at this very young age, the only thing that they understand about nutrition is they need to count points and massively undernourish themselves. And yes, it does damage on their body, but it's doing, like you said, damage in their mind of, well, I can't eat that much because I'm not supposed to take up that much space. And if I do eat more, that's bad. Like, it's just a bad thing. So that's terrible. The supplements, the little weight loss gummies, the diets, all of that, exactly what you said of like, hey, lose 10 kilograms in 4 weeks is also bad, because ultimately, if we think about this, nobody really cares about losing 10 kilograms in 4 weeks if 4 weeks after that, they're just going to gain the weight back. People care about losing the weight and keeping it off forever, which is what I'm after. And so that's actually why for the longest time I got away from challenges. Because like I said before, that was the problem I was seeing, is they'd lose the weight and they'd gain it back. So we switched from group coaching into one-on-one coaching so we can really pay attention to each person individually and make sure that, yes, they have the nutrition they need, they have the exercise they need, but ultimately they have the lifestyle, the habits, and the behaviors they need to support their body long term. And so once we did that, yes, we were helping less people, but every single person we helped kept their results long term, which was amazing. And so what I've actually done recently, Tracy, is I brought back the challenges, but it's in a new way. And so what I did is I simplified the nutrition in the exercise to a point where nobody needs to be counting their calories. They don't need to log their foods. I'm building the food and fitness programs individually for every single person that signs up. So they don't need to pay attention to that or even think about it. And then for 4 weeks, we're diving into mindset. And what I'm teaching them is, look, this is how we're going to succeed long term. These are the tools you need. This is the perspective you need to take on life and weight loss so that, yes, you're successful for this 4 weeks. You can lose weight and do great. But long after you and I are done talking, you're still here seeing results and keeping them. And so what I've found is, number one, I've run a ton of challenges in my career of coaching. This has the highest success rate inside the 4 weeks, but it also has the highest success rate outside of the 4 weeks. We're getting nobody that comes back, and when I check on them, like, hey, how's it going? They're like, good, I've reached my goal. Or good, I'm still losing weight. I'm like, oh, awesome. What do you think it was? Was it the program I built for you? They're like, no, that was cool, but I ended up adjusting it. The thing that helped me was the conversations we had about my mindset and the perspective I look at life through. And so that part's been massive.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love that. If I was going to do challenges, they would be around simple things that would de-stress a woman's body.
Yeah.
Especially during menopause, because, stress plays a massive part in the hormonal fluctuations and the results that you can or can't get. So I would do things like, and I get your opinion on this, 10 minutes meditation a day, daily walk, maybe some breath work, drink 2 liters of water. Like, I'd actually just do some simple lifestyle things that would help to impact a person when they're really stressed. And sometimes they don't even know they're stressed. They've been in that state for years, especially at, mid-40s, they're highly stressed. So that would be the only kind of thing that I would put into a challenge. I feel like anytime that they sign up with people like you or I to work out and have their nutrition, they know what they're getting in for. They know the expectation is already there. But I think that what they don't realize is that there's a whole lot of other things that actually do have such a huge impact on their results, which is decreasing stress and really resetting the mind. So, yeah, that's what I would do.
I'm on board. I'm on board 100%. We've run free challenges like that where, similar to what you said, like we won't even talk about nutrition or exercise. And we'll challenge people to do the hardest thing there is, which is sit by yourself alone with your thoughts.
Yeah,
And I mean,
try
that's
that.
for a lot of people, yes, that's harder than going to the gym for a lot of people. But you know what? If you're listening to this podcast and you agree with that and you know yourself well enough to be like, yeah, I think that sitting with my thoughts is harder than a tough workout. That's your signal that that's what you need to do. And when you actually sit down and do it, my God, you are going to feel, look, and act so much different.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I want to move on and ask you about, do you remember the moment that you first started training, say, a woman 40 plus, and you learnt about the concept of perimenopause? And what happened for you when you first remember maybe the conversation, or maybe someone brought it up, or maybe you had a client that was like really struggling, and then you started searching and then you realized, oh my God, this is a thing. Do you have that moment that you could share with us?
So for the first couple of years, I would say for the first 2 to 3 years, that honestly was not on my radar. And so I was just super naive. And then I think what happened is I just heard it enough and I started getting on podcasts with people like you and it got brought to my attention. It's like, well, this is a very real thing. And so number one, I'm noticing that what's happening is every single woman in Gen Pop of this demographic is talking about it. But what I'm understanding is that doctors are basically just turning a cold shoulder or a blind eye to it. And so what I realized is that number one, yes, it's very real. Yes, it makes a massive impact on your results or lack thereof. But number two, people just don't talk about it. It's very taboo. And so you're right. The name of my podcast is Diet Rebellion. But before that, it was actually called Menopause from a Man. Because for the
Yeah.
first 10 to 20 episodes, what I wanted to do is just bring ultimate awareness around that topic for two reasons. Number one, selfishly, so I could educate myself on it. But number two, I could make other women feel not alone. Like, wow, there's a place where people are actually talking about this. I feel heard. I feel understood. And then number three, they could get some education on what to do next. And so transparently, I'm not super well educated on this topic. I understand what perimenopause is. I understand menopause and postmenopause, but I'm not the pro on that or hormones. What I've done is create a network so that when we run into these issues, I can refer out to people like you and people like Dr. Suzanne Gilberg and many other people I had on my podcast. And so while I'm not the one that has the answers, I am the one that has the connections.
Look, I actually think you're being incredibly humble because I have looked at your podcast as well, and I feel like you did enough sessions with enough people to get a solid education as a fitness professional. I'm very similar to you. I actually started the podcast because no one was talking about it, and I wanted to find out everything I possibly could. So I interviewed all the experts and found out what I needed to know, and it was the platform to go and get educated around menopause fitness training. But I actually think you probably know more than you let on. And you probably, and from an experiential perspective, you're seeing these people every single day. I think one of the things you probably learned is every woman's experience through menopause is unique and different, but we all have similarities as well, which the challenges around getting fitness results and fatigue and those things. You're a special human being, George. What do other men need to know about menopause?
Number one, just what you said, that it's going to show up differently for every single person. And if there's one thing that I've really realized that stuck out to me is that from the age of, I mean, let's say somebody becomes perimenopausal at 35, which is not unheard of, or 40. From around that age, if your partner or your sister, or your loved one, or a family or a friend is starting to exhibit signs of anxiety, depression, things like that is absolutely a sign of perimenopause. You know what would just be incredible for that person in your life is like bring it to their attention. Like, hey, you know what? I understand that nothing has changed in your outside life and that on paper, there's no reason for you to be feeling like this, but internally there is. And if you go to the right people and have the right conversations, I bet we can get the right answers. Number one, you won't feel alone. Number two, we can justify this. And number three, there's probably something we can do about it to make you feel better. And so I think that would be a massive place to start.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the fact that you've actually highlighted the psychological symptoms first. As a fitness professional, when I went through perimenopause, I definitely had all the physical symptoms, right? So the physical symptoms for me before I knew what it was were manageable. Like when you're a fitness person, you go, okay, my muscles are sore, I'll stretch. Okay,
Yeah.
my elbow is aching, I don't know what it is, I'll go to my physio friend, right? So you can manage those things. But the psychological symptoms that you spoke about, that I experienced after never having had anxiety or low level depression before ever in my life, that really knocked me for six. And I really honor that you brought those up as some of the very first symptoms to look out for. I think any woman listening to this podcast will be like, where are all the guys like this? Why don't they know? I think I just share a little something with you. Like I am doing a lot of workshops for companies now that want to support women who are experiencing menopause in the workplace. And what's getting really exciting is there's a lot more guys coming to these workshops in support of their partners, their female work colleagues, their mums, and they are asking all the questions. And I think it's really, I feel like maybe women got a little bit territorial about the conversation, like this is a woman's conversation, but I think that life just gets better when we include everyone as a normal life stage that happens to women. We can talk about this. Yeah.
Look, every guy has a woman in their life, and every woman has a guy in their life to some capacity. And to exclude one gender is like the worst mistake you can make. Why? Because this person won't experience it doesn't mean they can't help you. Right. And so that's actually coming from me speaking from firsthand experience. Like for the longest time, I got drilled by people being like, hey, you're not even 30 and you're a guy. You have no place to speak in this. It's like, all right, well, what do you care more about? Do you care more about the fact that I won't experience this, or do you care more about the fact that I can probably help you in a massive way?
Yeah. No, I really
It's
appreciate that.
crazy.
Hey, Joe, I want to move on to just to get closer to wrapping up the podcast, although I'm absolutely loving speaking to you. So, what lights you up today as a fitness professional? You've had, what, a decade in the industry or more? What lights you up today?
Yeah, absolutely. So just so nobody fact checks this, it's like 7 years. 7 years is how long I've been coaching. I've been into fitness since I was 13, so working out religiously since then, but like actually coaching is 7.
Okay.
The thing that lights me up is it's not nutrition, it's not exercise. I have a couple coaches inside the business that work under me, and if I'm going to be completely transparent, I think they're better nutrition and exercise coaches than I ever was, which is amazing because those are the people that our clients deal with. The thing that lights me up is mindset. It's the unspoken key that I think unlocks everybody, not just in their body, but in every single dimension of life. And so when we get a client, either one-on-one or inside the group, mindset is where you're going to be dealing with me. And what I've been realizing recently is like, it changes everything. It changes somebody's speed to results. It changes somebody's consistency. It changes whether somebody's going to get results for a short time or get results and keep them for life. And all it takes is the tool of your brain and having a conversation. And that's it. So it's been really fun for me to help change some people's identities, to change their thoughts, actions, and behaviors, and then see how that pays off in their life, short and long term.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So, what does the long term look like for you, Joe? What's the future of Joe Hoye Fit?
There's a lot going on in my life right now. Things are getting crazy. But ultimately, if we're talking about just diet detox, then for me, we're not going to hire any more coaches. I absolutely love Kate and Carissa, and anybody that works with them says the same thing. So we're going to cap our one-to-one coaching because I can't just keep feeding them clients. At some point, there becomes these diminishing returns where if Kate or Carissa have too many clients, then the attention that client gets is less. And if they have less attention, they get less results. So we're going to cap that. Ultimately, I want to bring in as many people as I can into my challenges and teach them the mindset aspect of things and how to change their viewpoint of results from getting a quick result that might not last to getting a result that'll last forever. Other than that, it's really just spreading the message, because with those two avenues of being able to pay the bills for myself and my coaches, we're tapped. Like we can only help so many people that way. And so next, it's going to be, how many podcasts can I get on? How many times can I share this message? How many people can I tap into and affect? And at that point, like, what other free resources can I make? So we have a quiz that somebody can take. It takes like 2 minutes, and it's going to tell you the health of your metabolism, meaning, do you have the ability to lose weight right now? Yes or no? If yes, what should you do? If no, what's your next best steps? I wrote a book called The Diet Detox, which if somebody doesn't have the ability to lose weight, it is walking them through start to finish what they need to do in order to regain their ability to lose weight and then do it successfully so they don't mess up their metabolism again. And ultimately, it's just help as many people as possible would be the short answer.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the Sexy Aging podcast. It was really nice to reconnect with you. I'll put all your details around what you do in the show notes if anyone wants to connect with you. And I know that this is going to be a really successful and well downloaded episode. So thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Sexy Aging, and a huge thank you once again to my guest who offers their time and knowledge. Hey, if you love this episode, go and check out some other ones and subscribe to the podcast so I can continue to bring you content you will love. I'd also appreciate a review if you've got a minute, and if you are watching or listening to this episode on Spotify, there is the opportunity to give specific feedback and comments on this episode. Get out there and slay and stay sexy.